Hi everyone, welcome to the Art of Selling Junk. My name is John. Today I want to talk to you about something a little bit different. Every time I go on the internet, I see some wild prediction about the future, which is understandable. Our world is changing and it's changing quickly. But I don't know that this is the end of our democracy or that the planet will be uninhabitable in 10 years or that global trade will collapse or that AI will take over. But there's a lot of people out there that are convinced that it will be the case. So it dawned on me that I was the only one on the internet not putting out a wild prediction about the future. So I'm going to change that, but I'm going to do it specifically relating to something I love, which is flipping junk. So this is my completely unfounded, unjustified, and unqualified predictions for the future of the junk flipping business. The first thing I want to talk about is tariffs. Are these negotiating tactics, or is this a permanent shift in global enterprise and the end of the global system? As far as I'm concerned, it doesn't matter. What's clearly happening is that the U.S. wants to reshore and bring a lot of manufacturing back home. I don't think that's changing no matter what. And I think there's your opportunity, but it's also the challenge. Because whether or not there becomes a new China in Mexico or India or Vietnam, or whether we start making things again in Indiana and South Carolina, it's going to be a time of friction. And some things are going to be expensive. This is not going to be a smooth transition. And whatever things become more pricey, their substitute is going to look more attractive. So I think this is a great opportunity for anyone that buys and sells good quality items that are going to be hard to make well here. So I think this is the return of the made in USA products, and the ones that were made in USA in the 1960s are going to look great again. I think your Craftsman wrenches that were indestructible are going to be a great eBay item going forward. So I think it's going to be really good if you have good quality products, because things are going to get more expensive. There's also going to be some challenges that come along with that. Not only is just inflation going to pop up like whack-a-mole, but you're going to see other people noticing the changes in pricing, and that's going to affect the competitive landscape. I think thrift stores are going to be in more demand. You're going to see more faces at auctions and estate sales and yard sales. I think people are going to get the memo as to what is now hot and what's expensive and what brings the money. So you're going to have a harder time sourcing those things. It's also going to be probably a little more scarce to get your hands on them, because people are going to hold on to the good stuff until they figure out how the dust settles. So my prediction is, as the U.S. sort of finds its new position, where in a world where not everything is moved around the globe in 17 to 70 step supply chain processes, there's going to be opportunities to buy really great things that are now, their new alternatives are really expensive, but that window is going to close quickly, because I think people are going to get the memo quickly, and you're going to see that there's going to be more competition for some stuff that normally isn't the hot seller at an estate sale, for instance. My next prediction is that AI is going to be ultimately a blessing, but it is going to be a challenge in the short run. And in the short run, what is going to happen is what we're seeing now, which is everyone is going to use Google Lens and to identify their items, and everyone is going to use ChatGPT to write their descriptions, or whatever AI is already built into all the listing platforms. You know, the Etsy will probably write you an AI description. I know eBay does. I'm seeing a lot of eBay descriptions. They're all really generic, and they're pretty good, frankly. They cover a lot of the bases, but they do it in a kind of soulless way. So what you're going to see happening is the AI tools are going to lower the barrier to entry and more people are going to start selling. Or if nothing else, more people are going to look up what they have. So it's going to be harder to source at yard sales. You're going to hear that horrible old phrase, well, I looked it up on eBay. That's going to happen a lot more because now it's just a click away with Google Lens. So I would expect that once everyone sees what the market's doing, prices are going to go up. But eventually people are going to realize, unless I'm willing to put it in a box and open the eBay store and fulfill it and the order and ship it and deal with feedback and all the things, they're going to have to come back down to reality. But for a brief moment, you're going to see a lot more of that. I think I know what I've got from people that don't know the full story as to actually where that price came from online when they see listing ads or sold ads or whatever. So I think this is going to be a headache for the short run. Long run, I think thrift stores are going to adopt this, and I think any discounts or great arbitrage opportunities thrift stores are going to shrink. I also believe that it's just going to become a norm for a lot of people to use AI to basically create their listings. And I think that's a huge opportunity because everyone's going to have the same listing. Everyone's selling the same dash cluster from a 1964 Nova. It's all going to say the same thing. And you're going to be the one that can actually distinguish what features are not being included in that description and include them so that the person on the other end actually knows this will work for my car. This is perfect for my restoration or whatever the item is. It doesn't matter. The soullessness is the opportunity, because if you can speak to your item as a human talking to another human and you can tell the story behind it and you can explain why it's a compelling thing to buy, there's a huge opportunity to stand out from the crowd, because the crowd is going to look the same quickly. And so I think that's a huge opportunity. And I think the biggest opportunity that's going to come is that you're going to see logistics improve. Right now, UPS and FedEx, I think, are pretty good, and they're constantly finding ways to improve. It might not seem like it to sellers, but you can tell there's work happening behind the scenes to get better at logistics. And I think AI is going to improve that. And I think it's going to improve it for the harder things to ship, the more awkward things. So I could see a situation where if you took like U-Ship and U-Haul and Uber and blended them all into one with AI, shipping furniture and appliances and machinery and equipment and raw materials could get really, really interesting. It could get really much more user-friendly, because that's a sticking point. It's why I don't sell more big things, because I think that's the one area of online flipping that just is a weak spot, is big and awkward things. And I could see AI improving the logistics on that. The next area that you're going to see a lot of change is demographics. And I have some big predictions here. Again, completely unfounded. I'm no expert on any of this, but it's the internet, so it doesn't matter. The aging boomers have controlled a lot of wealth. They've bought a lot of toys, they have a lot of collections, they have cool stuff. But they don't need it for much longer. If you are aging out of life, I don't know that your Hopalong Cassidy collection matters. So I think there's a big transfer of wealth coming, just because this is such a big demographic sector that's aging out and dying. And they're going to have to get rid of their stuff anyways. The big challenge is going to be on a lot of the things that are typical collectibles or antiques or just decorative items, furniture, what have you. Does anyone want it? And will there be anyone to take it? So I really do wonder what becomes of these huge collections for people that are of a completely different generation that don't care. If you didn't listen to Elvis and you never watched The Lone Ranger, I'm going to be from a different world than you. You know, there's not necessarily an easy transition where some of these items find a home in the next generation. If you didn't take auto tech and you don't know how to change the points on a distributor, are you going to buy a Model A? So I really think that you're going to see the high water mark of boomer stuff. I think the 1950s and 1960s collectibles are only going to continue to be valuable in so much as they can transfer to the next generation. And nostalgia is powerful, but it can only go back so far. If you're having fond memories of your grandma's house, that's great. But you're not going to be able to remember the world of her grandmother. Everyone can picture the 1970s. The 1870s is foggy. So I think as time goes on, you're going to see that the 60s and 50s stuff becomes less relatable. Now, these are iconic decades. There's a lot of really cool stuff. So I don't think that's ever going to go away. The music and the design and things like that are incredible. But I think that you're going to see a paring down of a lot of this stuff. And the dominance of these collectibles is going to fade as a group. And it'll just be on sort of a case-by-case basis. I mean, I think there's a point where you have to ask, like, if I drive a Tesla and I have a poster of a Cybertruck on my wall, do I want your hot rod and your Sinclair sign? So I think for a long time that these items were collected by one group of people and they controlled the market and they set the prices, and now there's no one left to hand the baton off to. On the other hand, I think you're going to see 1980s and 1990s stuff continue to grow. Kids of that era are finally, they're grown up and they're starting to get some money. And this is a chance to recapture their childhood. So I would not be the least bit bearish on pop culture 80s and 90s stuff. I don't think it's going to go crazy in certain, just as like a bubble, because there's so much of it that was made that it will be only the cream of the crop stuff that goes wild. But those pieces will probably do really well. And I think the only thing holding back more of it is just how much of it was made. I'm not saying that you should go out and invest in Happy Meal toys. Like, they're not going to turn into $100 items. But that segment of stuff for people trying to recapture the 80s and 90s, I think the best of it will start going stupid. And you're going to see big numbers. And finally, I think you're going to see a lot of changing tastes. Because I've noticed this. I've noticed this in the time I've been buying and selling things, that social media speeds up trends, and we burn through them. You know, I think trends used to move like a big, thick oak log that was burning, and now they move like a match. We're on to the next thing. So what's going to happen is we're always moving towards what's novel. And right now we're in an interesting position where what's novel is texture, ornate, dark, elaborate, maximalist, the Victorian era, essentially. I mean, just roll with me on this. If you remember back a little while, when Joanna Gaines was everywhere, and everyone was shiplapping everything, Home Depot was selling shiplap. It was chippy paint, stripped raw wood, everything painted white. The immediate response to that was a rise in mid-century. And cleaner lines, more modern, less chippy, less architectural, and then color. Well, if we're in a sort of modern revival, what happens when everyone is tired of hairpin legs and brushed gold accents? I think the only place to move is towards heavy texture, busy patterns. And this might be the chance where dark wood Victorian stuff, traditional antiques, the stuff that your grandma had, or maybe your great grandma had, comes back. We're kind of pinned in a corner. I don't know where else we move. And I think coming with that, paired with AI and everything being artificial, is going to be a return to sort of an arts and crafts movement. And we saw this after industrialization, where things were made quickly and standardized. And the response to that was a celebration of craftsmanship and making things by hand. Well, if you can ask AI to generate an image of a pink elephant on a unicycle, and he can do it in a blink of an eye, the people that have been sort of disenfranchised are your photographers and your artists. So I could see a situation, especially if the country reindustrializes, where you have the same elements as what happened over 100 years ago during industrialization. So I think there could be a chance to see like a folk revival, an arts and crafts revival. It's not going to be big, because at the end of the day, I think Wayfair has a better business model. But I think you'll see it. I think you'll see longing in people's hearts, and it'll show up in their buying patterns that they miss real in an AI world. So anyways, those are my predictions, and I feel like I have done my part to contribute to the growing noise and confusion about the future. And the great thing is, it's out there for the world to see. So you can hold me accountable in the comment section. If I nail it, let me know. If you think I'm way offline, let me know. And I will see you in the next video.